If you watch this channel regularly, then you'll definitely remember my buddy Paul, who does 3D industrial design and runs an Etsy store full of cool enhancements for our gaming gadgets. Now, we've looked at a number of his products like the GSP paddle expanders, CX78 controller grip, and more. A few months ago, we were talking and I asked if he could recreate a simple Atari joystick ball that I used to have. Now, of course, being the champion that he is, he was quick to say yes. So over the next few weeks, as Paul iterated on my request and listened to my feedback, a series of happy accidents led to not one, but a number of cool new controller accessories. I'll share the story and show you the results right after this. This video supported in part by...
Well, in VR, I tend to sweat. It gives me an edge. So King of Nerds happens to give me an edge too. Let King of Nerds give you the edge. Bye, King of Nerds.
Hey there, welcome back to GenXGrownUp. I'm John, and I am a GenXGrownUp. Thank you for taking the time to click on this video. You know, back in the 80s, my friends and I in Central Florida made up a fictional company in order to get invited to the Orlando Computer Expo. It was under this ruse as MRO, the Microcomputer Recommendation Organization, that I attended one year and came across the Stick Stand. Now, this was a base into which you could insert your CX40 controller, but more importantly, had a red ball top you could place on top of the stick to give it that arcade ball feeling. I found the stand itself to be impractical and unwieldy, but the ball top, well, that was awesome. I had a pair of them and I never took them off. But alas, these were lost to some yard sale decades ago, and while you can occasionally find a set on eBay, not only can they be quite expensive, but they're often missing the part I care the most about, the ball. This then is what I asked Paul if he could replicate. Now, of course, he needed a sample to measure for accuracy, so I reached out to a longtime friend of GenXGrownUp, Jeremiah, who I knew had a stick stand and ball. Jeremiah very graciously offered to ship the ball to Paul for analysis, and I waited eagerly for the results. Now, this is where the story really takes off. For starters, though, let's take a look at the original stick stand. This is the very one that Jeremiah had that he loaned to Paul.
Here it is, and it's just as simple as it sounds. You have this stand here, and then you have this ball. Now, the ball is just a perfect sphere with kind of a void here cut out to put over the top of your CX40. So I have here, this is actually the CX40 Plus wireless, so no wires to deal with, although it does have a place for a wire to come out the back. And then you take the ball and just kind of squish it on there. And so then you have this stable surface with, this is the best part, this ball, it feels so good. In fact, let's take it out of there. Here's what I was trying to get Paul to replicate, was this experience, this ball top. I mean, you know how you hold a joystick normally. If I get off of there, you hold it like this typically, right? Unless you're rewired, you're lefty, but you hold it like this, and you kind of grip the top of the shaft of the stick there. But with the ball top on it, it has a much larger diameter, and it's easier to get a hold of, and to me, it just feels awesome. And every time I use a CX40 without one of these, I'm dreaming of having this with it, and I just could never find one.
While Paul was awaiting receipt in the mail of this original, he started work on a ball top just from photos and my description. And that led to this. This is a little larger. It's a 40mm smooth ball top with a stick extender.
Now, aside from being much taller and having this hexagonal kind of assembly on the bottom that makes it much bigger, the ball is also a little bit larger. So the original stick stand ball top was, I think he said 37.5mm, and this is 40. So this sphere he did not print, he sourced that. This is the gear shift handle for a Bobcat bulldozer. So it's heavy, it's super smooth, and and just like you would with this ball top, it goes right on top, fitting the hexagonal shape of the CX40 right on there. Now, it ends up being quite a bit taller, as you might see. So as you're playing it, you're kind of, for me anyway, I'm kind of grabbing down here. I'm not even using the ball. But Paul noticed this did give it kind of a nice longer shaft that felt a little bit more like an arcade stick. But you needed a base, so rather than just use this base, Paul said, I can do better. So he designed this. So check out this thing. This is a suction cupped stick stand. Now the old one just had little rubber feet on it to keep it in place, right? So Paul's has this suction cup stand. Overkill for me, but if you have this, it makes sense. Oh, you might want to notice, see these little indents that are all different locations and positions? That's because depending on which stick you have, these rubber feet are in different places. So he was looking ahead and going, let's make this future-proofed. Let's kind of have places where these rubber feet might be on different models, whether you have an original CX40 or a CX40 Plus or a wireless or whatever you have. And then you just slide that right in there, suction cup it down, and you have this giant ball-top joystick that sits on your table if you want to have it feel kind of even more like, an arcade feel with your 2600.
This whole rig then is a happy accident spawned from a misunderstanding, but resulted in a very arcade-like experience with an Atari CX40. But it wasn't the little red ball top I asked for, and I promise I'll get there. But first, once Paul had this design, it led him to the next logical step, or the next logical step in Paul's mind anyway. One of his favorite games is Battlezone, and there is a ROM hack of Battlezone for the 2600 that uses 2 sticks for navigation, just like the arcade. So what did he do? This.
Here he's provided 2 of those stands with a bracket to hold them together. And you can see down here, it's even called the Bat-L Zone. You can see in the shadows there. Controller stand, and here's what you do. You take 2 sticks that both have these extensions on them. One goes in there, one goes in there. Suction cup it down, and now you have this Battlezone stick for driving, your tank. I don't know how you reach the fire buttons, but they're down there. I mean, that's a Battlezone problem. And look, he told me, I don't care if nobody wants one of these. He wants it to play Battlezone. But I was observing that there are a number of other games that use a CX40 stick, especially on the Atari 8-bit. Battlezone on there, you can use 2 sticks. Robotron 2084, the box, even when you bought it, actually came with a base inside the box to hold 2 sticks. Space Dungeon, a number of others that you can play with dual sticks, and like one for moving, one for shooting kind of thing. And so this is admittedly kind of overkill, but overkill I think is Paul's expertise. He takes an interesting idea that no company in their right mind would invest in because the market is so niche, but he makes it. So if there's 2 or 3 people out there that want it, you can get it. And I'm one of those 2 or 3 people, and I have one. So how cool is that?
Okay, so now that we've explored that rabbit hole of design, let's pull it back. Once Paul did receive the original from Jeremiah, he realized that he'd over-designed the ball I was looking for, and he went back to the drawing board. And he landed exactly where I'd hoped he would with this.
So here it finally is. This is what I was asking Paul for that went down those other paths to get some interesting stuff. This is a replacement for this ball top. The exact same diameter. He made some improvements and some changes here. So it's 3D printed, so it actually has a little texture to it, which I like the smooth ball, but the texture is really, look, it's hard to print smooth spheres in any kind of 3D printing. But whatever he did to design this, it doesn't feel... It just feels a little tactile, a little scratchy, right? This, of course, he couldn't get the top to print perfectly, so he has this smooth cap that interestingly makes this look kind of like an eyeball. The other thing he did was adjust the bottom. Now, he noticed on the original, it was a perfect circle to plug in, and that would actually kind of dig into the rubber boot of the joystick. So he made the hexagonal entry point here so that when it slides in, it doesn't damage the stick. Let me show you. Here's an original, which I think you saw me put on earlier. You kind of have to push it on there a little bit, and it has little gaps, and it's kind of hard to get off too. But this guy, perfectly engineered, slide right on there, stays on great. Oh, that's the stuff. That is what I was looking for. This experience, this ball top at this height on a CX40 style joystick. If you've never used this, you might go, John, what are you going so ape about? It's not that big of a deal. It makes such a difference. It really does for me. And now he's provided that for me. I'm so... Meeting Paul has been awesome, but ever since he said, do you have any ideas for designs? And I'm like, oh man, could you make me one of these or one of these? In every way, he's improved upon what it used to be. It's more friendly to your joystick. It doesn't mess with it. Has a little bit of a grip to it. And yeah, that's wonderful.
It was at this point that I was entirely satisfied. But Paul, he was not. Once he found out what I already knew, just how much a ball top improves the feel of a standard Atari joystick, he wanted to bring that same great feeling to the joystick for the Atari Game Station Pro. Now you remember he'd already designed those paddle extenders, so why stop there?
I mean, there's really no way to take that and put it on a Game Station Pro joystick, is there? Is there? Well, don't challenge Paul. Look at this thing. All right, so a cutout for the B button. The C button is still accessible underneath here. So there were some challenges involved in getting this. So this comes in a two-part set. There's a retention ring here because if you look at this joystick, right, it has this reverse taper, right? It starts larger and it gets smaller. So how do you put something down over the top and keep it in place? So what this comes with actually, let me show you. You get the ball itself with the indent for the C button, the cutout for the B button, and you can see there are ridges in here to get it to hold on and grip tightly to the top of that stick. Then you have this retention ring that goes on first, and it's kind of tough, kind of finicky actually to get installed, and he knew that. So he provided a tool which wraps around the stick, clamps, and you can use to pull up and lock this retention ring in place. He's not half-stepping here at any point. He even recognized, he's like, John, do you think it's too difficult to install? And I'm like, look, we're fans of this stuff. We'll find a way. And so to mitigate any challenges, he made a tool. He provides two of them with every one of these. And what do you end up with? Well, you end up with this, the same kind of ball top on a Game Station Pro joystick. You know what else? You don't accidentally hit the C button like I often do because you're grabbing the ball top like this. You slide your finger kind of down a little to hit that C button, if that's what you want to hit. The B button is still fully accessible. Just smart. Look, if he had said, do you think I should put this ball top on a Game Station Pro? My answer would have been an emphatic, no, don't bother. And then I saw this, and I'm like, well, that's genius. How could you not do that? And so many people own and enjoy the Game Station Pro, and I would like them to have the benefit of what it's like to have a nice ball top on the joystick. And now, thanks to Paul, one more cool product that you can add if you're so inclined.
So that's it. My request for Paul to recreate this little red ball ultimately led to all of these to be designed in the process. Now, some admittedly more practical than others, but all have that careful attention to detail we've come to expect from Paul's work. And if you'd like to grab any of these to enhance your gameplay, links are down in the video description to every one of them in Paul's Etsy store. But most important of all, I now have a little red ball top on my CX40, and it's never coming off. Of course, I will place links here and here to some previous Paul creations I have covered here on the channel. I certainly hope you found something to enjoy in this video, and I cannot wait to talk to you again next time. Bye-bye.